Welcome, everyone, to Circle City Conversations. Thank you for joining me for our conversation today. Thank you to our sponsor, Hearst Lamontes, an Indiana law firm representing injured Hoosiers and their families for over 50 years. We launched episode 1 a few months ago, and I've had some really great guests and a lot of support, and I'd like to thank everyone for their continued support. Today is a very special day in here at Circle City Conversations because I've got my first tag team interview. Got 2 very special guests in the studio today, the dynamic duo of Gregg Keele and Nathan Hacker. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah,
good to see you.
It's a lot of fun. Thank you.
All right. Well, the fun hasn't started yet, guys. Okay. Just wait till I ask you the real pressing questions. So we like to start easy around here. And since you guys do work together and seem to work well together, I'm just going to kind of leave this over to you. But, where are you guys from originally?
I'm from northern Indiana, a little town called Warsaw, where somehow this little town of, 20 or 30,000 people produces 30% of the world's orthopedic devices, knees and elbows. And
yes.
It's really crazy.
Yeah. And what about you, Nate?
I'm from Huntington, Indiana. It's a smaller town than Warsaw. We look up to Warsaw on the map and in real life. We produce approximately 0% of the world's biometric devices, and one of every, 45, 47 vice presidents from time to time. So,
right. And one of every 5 cool guys, right? I mean, come out of that place.
if you say so.
Yeah. I didn't say you were one of those. I just said,
yeah.
Warsaw, what county is that?
Kosciuszko
County. It's probably a lot of medical device litigation going on up there.
I would guess there probably is. Yeah.
Who's
or
up
a
there?
lot of defense anyway.
Right. Cook Medical's up there, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Medtronic.
That's right.
Biomet. DePuy, owned by Johnson & Johnson, used to be. Zimmer.
Oh, yeah.
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 A lot of the big names.
A lot of companies make, maybe I'm living in the wrong place right now.
We'll have to take a little road trip up there. I'll show you around.
What's the best restaurant? If someone's like, I'm going to Warsaw, where do you tell them to go eat?
The Boathouse is really good. Cerulean's really good. In the summertime around Winona Lake, they've just done a great job of cultivating that little village feel, and
that's awesome.
It's a really neat place to walk around and enjoy the day.
Yeah, I will have to check it out next time I'm up there.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys. So you're from Huntington. Where'd you go to high school, Nathan?
The creatively named Huntington North High School. Just as a side note, there is no Huntington South. They, I guess, had that in the works at one point in time and decided, we only need one. So like I said, it's smaller. I think we had 15,000 in the county.
Oh, wow.
So it's not big at all.
That is small. Yeah, definitely.
It's like a Chinese apartment building.
It's a lot harder to burn down all at once.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, small town in China is like 14 million people.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. What about you, Greg? Where'd you go to high school?
Again, aptly named Warsaw.
Oh,
Community
Warsaw.
High School. Yeah. home of the Tigers, along with like half of other high schools.
Yeah.
Tigers, Cougars, Bears. Right.
Right. What about college?
I went to Indiana State. And,
trees. Go trees.
It was really exciting from a sports perspective. At Indiana State.
Absolutely.
That was sarcasm.
Yeah.
But it was a good time, good stint. So
yeah, we've got a lawyer here at the office. That's Sycamore.
Oh,
so
nice.
Chase Wilson, young lawyer. And Nate, what about you? Where'd you go to college?
Boilermakers, Purdue.
Oh, go Purdue. We got a big game tonight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope. I hope. I hope we don't lay another egg. I mean, Nebraska's.
Just hope there's no
Northwestern.
Fights tonight or tomorrow. We got a couple big IU, couple big Purdue people in the office, and
really,
I've got the Pinkerton people coming in to make sure we keep order. But these guys are rowdy.
Right.
What are you gonna do?
What an interesting. I mean, I'm from Florida originally, so I grew up around football. I love football. Played football. Love basketball too, but not like Indiana. Never seen anything like it. I remember at Hanover when IU beat Maryland. I mean, these guys were running, and it was freezing cold outside. They're running through the quad like naked, like these IU fans. You know, they're just going nuts. You know, wait, did they beat Duke? They lost to Maryland.
They lost to Maryland.
They beat Duke.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. My bad.
They went nuts when they beat Duke. And
yes, they went nuts. It was the Duke game that.
Yeah, and then went and hung themselves when they lost to Maryland.
Correct.
Yeah. Rough days.
Yeah. So, all right. We got sidetracked.
So you went to Hanover, and then did you do law school at IU?
I went to law school downtown. Nice. Because IUPUI was. I really wanted to be a Jaguar. No,
well,
that was sarcasm.
Put it up against the Tigers, and we got ourselves a rumble.
Yeah. Right?
Well, cat fight.
Yeah. Very
That's funny.
Nicely done.
So Nate, you went to law school after that, right?
I taught high school math for a year.
Oh, okay. Where'd you teach?
The aptly named Huntington North. Yeah, they were hard up. I was a literature major in college, but they needed a math teacher, and because I was at Purdue, they figured I could do the numbers thing pretty well, and gave me a license to teach for 1 year, and so I taught pre-calculus. At Huntington North. Yeah. Did you
know that you wanted to be a lawyer? Like, did you know you wanted to go to law school?
I'm still not sure. To be honest, like dental school from time to time sounds pretty interesting. You know, what Gregg does is really got me interested. The law school was a natural next step for somebody who majored in reading books. And
I see.
They weren't hiring a lot of people to come and read.
Right. That's funny. So, did you go to law school downtown?
Yeah.
Okay.
There. I graduated in 2005.
Okay. And Gregg, did you go to grad school after?
I got degrees in economics and political science, and then started doing what I do now, which is financial planning. I started a financial planning practice, and I was young and dumb enough at the time to think that was a good idea. But here, almost 30 years later, it worked out. In college, right before college, joined the Army, so I was in the Army for a little while, mostly in the reserve, and then went and did a combat tour in Iraq in 2004 and 2005. And then after that was about enough of that. Had to decide if I was going to keep going back to the Middle East or back to work. Chose to go back to work. Army was kind enough to let me make that decision. And so been running a financial planning firm, specializing in working with attorneys, helping them find better settlement options for clients, and running the financial analysis to help them be really confident about what they decide to do with it.
Did you do any of that in the military, in the Army?
No, I blew stuff up.
There you go.
Sometimes we built stuff, and then other times we blew stuff up. Generally not the same thing, because that was kind of inefficient. But I was a combat engineer and a company commander, and we ran gun trucks and armored escort all over Iraq, and then helped the Iraqi Army build a couple of units to do.
Okay. I don't know if you knew this about me. I grew up military kid. Grew up on an Air Force base. Yeah. Grew up on an Air Force base. My stepdad was, he worked in the fuel depot. After he got out, he worked for a company that fixed gas pumps and gas stations.
Nice,
so went right back into it.
Probably triple the pay, right?
Yeah, exactly.
probably
yeah. So, I grew up on a military Homestead Air Force Base down in South Florida.
Yeah.
Yes, and then Hurricane Andrew came through and just demolished it. So we moved up to the central part. There's right by Cape Canaveral, Patrick Air Force Base. So I almost joined the military myself.
Oh, wow.
So, but decided to go to Hanover.
Yeah.
All right. So we talked a little bit kind of about, your education, and you mentioned about financial planning. As far as being like a certified financial planner, is that a thing, or did I just make that up?
That's the main designation, CFP, kind of like a like a CPA for accountants, that kind of thing. That's the main designation. There are many.
So what does that person do? What is like the daily tasks associated?
Sure. Certified financial planner is usually someone that's going to help someone develop a comprehensive financial plan. That'll include, obviously saving the proper amount of money to help them forecast to what they want to get, whether that's paying for kids' college or retirement or buying a vacation home, whatever those goals are. How much realistically does someone need to save to do that? And should we be using the 401k or the Roth IRA or a non-qualified account? How does that affect the taxes in today's tax year, but also 5 and 10 and 50 years down the road? How are those things going to produce income in the future? So working with the tax accountant to help figure that out together and create a good plan for that, working with the estate planning attorney to make sure that not only do we have an estate plan in place when you have young kids, right? Something happens to you as maybe the breadwinner in the family or partial breadwinner in the family. How is the family going to be affected by that? So do we need to have life insurance? And if we do, how much should we have? And what kind and how much should we pay for that? How do we know if we're getting a good deal or not? What should the beneficiary designations do? Do I need one of those fancy revocable living trusts or do I not? How should my beneficiary on my 401k read? All of those things into, should I buy Amazon stock or Apple stock, or what should my portfolio look like? And how do I align all of these things together to knit a really beautiful tapestry of getting someone confident in their not only financial present, but their financial future? And that comes into, I know you do a lot of work in the community. What percentage of my income and what percentage of my wealth can I afford to give away?
Right.
And where is that wise? And should I do it now? Should it be something I'm planning for in the future? So, I don't want to take anything from anyone else, but I think being a financial advisor, a certified financial planner, has got to be one of the greatest jobs in the world. I get to work with amazing people and help them, in their lives, with their family and their community, help them align their resources to give their greatest gifts to the world. Yeah. And they pay us to do that. Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, it really is one of the things I have to be the most grateful for in the universe. It's fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, look at this guy. He loves it.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Loves it.
Enthusiasm.
I'm a lucky guy.
Do you, if someone has, let's say, a diverse portfolio that includes properties, for example, do you guys help with those?
Yes. I mean, financial assets that produce income, wherever they come from, are the name of the game, right? And so real estate that's personally owned is one thing. Real estate that you get personal benefit from is one thing. But the real estate, for example, that produces income for you now and in the future is just, it's got to be a part of a larger diversified portfolio. Now, again, not everybody is lucky enough to have the resources to be able to include that in their portfolio, but there's also lots of ways to do it. You can buy publicly traded real estate investment trusts that invest in apartment buildings or residential houses or office buildings, or you can go buy those things yourself if you're a big shot like Alec.
Yeah, I only take advice from my friends. They just tell me where to go put my money, and then it's kind of like my wife. She tells me the same thing, where to put my money in.
I'm sure she does.
Where to unput your head,
right, exactly.
Makes a
exactly. That's funny. So I want to talk a little bit about Torchlight Resolutions. All right, to let's say one of our listeners, lawyer, maybe a general practitioner in Warsaw, or Huntington.
There could be some in there.
And they want to know more about what is Torchlight. What do you guys do?
Sure. Well, we're actually based at Keystone Crossing in Indianapolis, but we do work with clients and advisors and attorneys nationwide. Probably doing divorces in 6 or 7 states at any given time. But we work with legal advisors, attorneys who have settlements that financial settlements that they're working out for their clients. So, example, divorce or a tort law personal injury case would be good ones. In a divorce, we're going to work with folks to make sure they understand what they have and understand the implications of any particular settlement agreement. So let's say she was the breadwinner and he is now going to have to, after not working for 20 years, he's going to have to live off half or so of the marital assets. Well, she makes $500,000 a year. She's a surgeon and he hasn't worked in 20 years, took care of the kids, and they're splitting, let's say, some relatively big number, $4 million.
Okay.
So he's going to get $2 million, and that'll produce over time, sustainably, about $80,000 a year in income. Well, he's used to living off $500,000.
Right.
So he can't afford that $1 million house they're living in. He can't afford the trips to Vail and whatever. We have to get to a realistic place where we understand how this life is going to have to change to live in a fulfilled way, but with less money.
Yeah.
Right? That's step one. And step two is, if he's 48 years old, he can't necessarily take a bunch of retirement plan money without paying a ton of tax and some penalties and a lot. So where do we get the liquidity? What is going to work for both parties? How do we find a resolution that's as fair as we can get to, and help both attorneys understand what needs to happen for this family to move forward? Right. It helps to reduce a ton of conflict, because instead of saying, I raised the kids, I deserve 60% of this thing, we're not going to talk in those terms. We're going to talk about how both parties are able to leave this marriage and split these assets and do it in a way that both can be financially sustainable.
Okay.
Right? And for a case like the ones your firm works on a lot, someone's got to make a decision. I can get, Alex gets people big money, so I can get $1 million right now, or I can go to court and get somewhere between $0 and $3 million, right?
Right.
So let's sit down and talk about what that means to the client so that they can make a good decision about the risk they're about to take in their own life.
Yeah.
Right? Is it worth the extra $500,000, $100,000, $10,000, $1 million? Is it worth trying to get that for the risk that they're taking? And what does that mean to their life? And when they get that money, how do they avoid all their friends and family taking it from them?
Yeah.
Right? Oh, I've got this great business. Cousins come out of the woodwork.
Oh, God. Oh, my
girls
God.
you dated in preschool are going to come around. So, putting together a plan where that person understands what part of their money is for charity, for family, for giving away, and what part do they really need to lock down for their own financial future? What kind of returns do they need to get on that money to get to where they're going to go? And if they have an injury that they're going to have to sustain the rest of their life, that's going to have expenses associated. We need to be able to calculate how much money we need to put aside to create the income they need to take care of those needs going forward for the next 20, 30, 50 years, however old they are. So it provides at the end of the day, it's all about doing the math, giving the love, providing the confidence so that everybody walks away from that bad situation, right? Mm-hmm. There's not a personal injury case that you're something good happened, right?
No.
There's not a marriage that's ending where we're saying, oh gosh, yay, right?
Right.
I mean, the end of a bad marriage can be a good thing, but it's traumatic for everybody involved. And so taking that situation and turning it into something where people can move forward with strength, with dignity, with honor, without tearing apart all the relationships around them, and be financially sustainable, well, it's worth doing.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned future medical bills, things like that. You guys work hand in hand with life care planners, or have you?
Correct.
Yeah.
Again, whatever professionals that we need in that case to help us create a truly holistic plan that we all can feel really good about, that we feel confident in, we're going to work with them. And so, sometimes that takes a life coach. Sometimes it takes care coordinators. Sometimes it takes care planners. Absolutely. And we have just like you, we have a network. Nate's saying is, what do you need? Because I've got a guy,
right?
And I guarantee he does. He has a
you want
guy
to be on
or
a
a
podcast?
gal.
I know somebody.
Yeah, right.
Right. That's that side of the family, dude. For my listeners, Nate and I are related. Our wives are cousins, but your wife's dad, he is the guy. He's like, I got a guy for that.
Absolutely.
And then my father-in-law too, same guy. He's like, I got a guy for that.
Yeah.
You know, so that's so funny. It must be like
when we're connecting our networks and resources to help people get what they need, that's super important. And to know that we can send people to someone that we trust who, just because of our relationship with that person, we know they're going to give a fair deal, an honest deal, and tell us if there's a problem. That's some very valuable connections that we provide each other and to all the people we work for. And, again, I think that's just good stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I was on your website looking at some of the services that you provide in different areas of law that you work in. And one of the things I noticed was expert testimony. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, there are times when parties decide they're not going to agree, they're not going to work it out, and they go to court. This happens, and sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. Most of the time there is, but okay. And I'm talking about in the divorce, not in the personal injury.
Right.
And so we'll go in and talk about the character of assets or the character of the income someone might need to be successful. Annuities and insurance products are oftentimes difficult to interpret, and sometimes money traps. And so we'll go in and help the judge understand the nature of the conflict or the nature of the financial asset, so that we can better and more clearly divide it.
Yeah, very cool. We talked about personal injury cases, Torchlight, the different areas of law that you work in. Personal injury cases, divorces. It sounds like you guys kind of started with the divorces. And I saw that estate work was coming soon. What kind of work do you do there?
Yeah, so we have one of our financial advisors is a 17 or 18 year estate planning veteran, used to run the major gifts area for the IU School of Medicine. Really, really talented guy. And in being a certified financial planner, that's one of the areas that you have to have some education and focus in. So when we talk about giving people confidence in these situations, there's a pot of money coming, right? It could be from, dad just died and now we got to split it amongst the three siblings, right? It could be from a divorce. It could be from personal injury. But that pot of money is a beautiful thing most of the time, right? But it's usually coming from something not great.
Right.
It causes a lot of stress. It causes a lot of anxiety. If it's used improperly, it can ruin lives, right? Because I had money and now I don't, and what a loser I am, right? Kind of an attitude people can get. And so we've noticed that mom and dad have some money, right? Let's say mom and dad die with $10 million, $50 million, $500,000, right? Whatever it is.
Right.
And they leave it to the kids. They've assigned one of the kids to be the executor or executrix, right? So I want you to settle my estate and divide it between the siblings. Well, guess how many times that child who just inherited, guess how many times they've been an executor? Probably zero, right?
Yeah.
And then think about how well your own kids, Alex.
Oh my God.
How well, which one of your kids are you going to pick to be your executor and say, split it fairly?
Oh.
Right.
And so we like to step in and help with that because we can professionalize the situation and take out of the potential argument, make sure that everything is documented, that it's clear, that everybody knows what the assets are and how they're being divided and where they're going, so that the family doesn't tear itself apart fighting over money. And usually what happens is the spouse of one of the beneficiaries gets in the ear of the beneficiary and says, your sister's screwing you over, your brother's screwing you over. And these fights start, and people don't understand financial assets very deeply sometimes. And so, no, I did the right thing. No, he's it, right? And so we like to, right at the beginning, just get in front of that, explain to everybody what's happening, explain to them how it's divided, the character of the assets, what needs to happen, get their agreement, and they're all running together. And then if there's anybody to blame at the end, they can blame us, right? Instead of each other and ruining Thanksgiving for the next 20 years, right? Because we're equipped for that, right? We have the infrastructure. We can show what we did and why we did it. We can show our our math, as Nate, the former teacher, might say, and show our work.
Yeah.
So it helps, again, to take conflict out of these situations that could strengthen families, strengthen lives, make people happier and more productive, or it can just turn into an absolute mess. So we want that money to be a blessing, and we help people guide that direction.
And so those are probably the three main areas of law. Any other areas that you guys have found yourselves stumbling into?
Yeah, I mean, so we work for some celebrities, some athletes, folks that come into a lot of money that maybe for the first time. Doctors who are coming out of residency. They've been working 95 hours a week for the last 7 years, making $35,000 a year, and now they're going to make $450 this year, right?
Right. Yeah.
So people who are, we kind of specialize in people who are coming into a large sum of money and they're not accustomed to that, right? Mm-hmm. How do we make sure that this works out well instead, again, becomes a blessing instead of a burden? So all kinds of lottery winners, all kinds of situations where that happens. But we really love working with the legal community so that someone gets some great legal advice combined with some great financial advice. And I tell you, the confidence level and the outcomes are just dramatically better.
Yeah, yeah. And so let's talk a little bit about that, the hybrid nature kind of what Torchlight does and what it is. Nate, you're a lawyer, right?
Yeah. Still.
Yeah, still, right?
Yeah.
Should we check the roll of attorneys?
No, I paid my lawyer tax.
You
We're
did
good.
your lawyer tax?
Yeah. Took my classes, paid my tax. We're good.
Oh, I'm going to be paying lawyer taxes for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you're a lawyer, and you're also a certified
divorce financial analyst.
Yes.
Right.
That's a mouthful, guys.
So CDFA rolls off the tongue.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about this kind of your business. The nature of it is unlike what you see in a lot of more traditional financial advising planning. How are you different than a more traditional firm at Torchlight?
But for one, there's not really a lot out there like us.
Right.
We may have invented this.
We're not sure. We're not finding it anywhere else. I'm also a registered domestic relations mediator.
That's right.
So this is how to explain how it's a little bit different. Normally, you walk into a mediation as a family law attorney or as somebody who's got the unfortunate situation of going through a divorce.
Yeah.
Right. You've got, to use an example, $4 million marital estate that Gregg was talking about. You didn't accumulate that marital estate in 8 hours.
Right.
But the expectation is you'll go into mediation. It'll start 9:30, and by 5 or 5:30 that evening, you'll have everything signed and you'll be divorced, and we'll have split $4 million in a matter of 8 hours.
Wow.
It doesn't make a lot of sense.
No.
Right? You may have bonds. You may have things that take some valuation. There could be pensions that roll into this that we have to figure out. What's the pension valued at? Does it make sense to do a surviving spouse benefit? Is it a shared pension? Is it a separate pension? And working through just some of those things, people are a lot more comfortable using us if they know, okay, we're going to come in and we're going to establish some of the groundwork and we're going to get our numbers. We're going to know what numbers we need to get. We're going to give that information over. Gregg and I will sit down with them through the mediation process and work out, all right, this is why this makes sense. This is why this makes sense. And there's an understanding that gets sort of brought into the process that isn't 8 hours of, all right, I want 400 out of the 401k. No, I want 375 out of the 401k. Yeah. And you go back and forth for 2 hours paying your lawyers, paying your mediators to settle on some number somewhere in the middle. It might not make any sense, but in that pressure cooker 8-hour mediation where you think, oh, I've got to get done because the judge expects us to get done or we're going to have to face this mean judge, you make a decision like, all right, how do I get out of this? I'm exhausted. Fine, I'll just take whatever this number is. And it could be something that is detrimental to that long-term adjustment Gregg was talking about.
Yeah.
You got the guy who's going from $500,000 a year down to $80,000. And he says, okay, I'll take, the 401k. And yeah, he may have gotten half. He may have gotten 60% of the marital estate.
Yeah.
But in the end, he's stuck with this woefully low number.
Yeah.
And if he's got no work experience, he's going to go out there and make $40,000-$50,000 a year.
Well, if you have $1 million and you owe zero tax on it, you have $1 million. If you have $1 million and you owe 40% tax on it, you have $600,000, right?
Exactly.
So those are the same asset on the lawyer's balance sheet, but very different value of the money you can spend from it, right?
Right.
And so helping people understand that is part of that process.
And what I found, it put you on the spot, Alex. What was your minor or your major in undergrad?
Sociology.
Yeah. How much math did you have to take to get that?
That's why I became a sociology major. I was a math major at Hanover.
Yeah.
And yes.
No, I was an engineer at Purdue until I decided I didn't want to be an engineer anymore. But the understanding by a lot of attorneys of the mathematical or the tax consequences. Look, we were in law school. If we wanted to be tax lawyers, we took Jagan's tax class, and then we went to work for somebody who does taxes, and we're not practicing family law. We don't have that sort of personal connection law that you get for a family law case. When you go through a family law case, you get a personal connection with your family law attorney. Personal injuries, same way. You're trusting this person because you've had something really bad happen to you, right?
Yep.
But a lot of attorneys aren't geared to giving that financial advice. They're just say, how much can I get?
Yeah.
And draw a line. And to put it in the context of the personal injury realm, if you're sitting there and a client says, okay, I need $1.5 million.
Right.
Why? Why do you need $1.5 million? Right?
Yeah.
Maybe you do, maybe you don't.
Yeah.
Right. But if you say, I need $1.5 million because I want to do these things, that might be something that could be done with $800,000.
Yes.
And so you risk losing an $800,000 settlement that's on the table because you think you need $1.5 million. And in the end, you go to court and you end up 51% at fault. What do you get?
Right.
And we find a lot of people make mistakes because they don't understand the entirety of the situation, right? So maybe someone needs then follow-on healthcare insurance, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've heard this, but some people feel like having health insurance is a good thing, right? Yeah. And so if I've got $1.5 million to invest, and I say go buy an annuity that creates the income I need in cash for the rest of my life, right?
Yep.
Yay, good for me. That's awesome. What I also created was an ordinary income tax liability that will make me pay the full boat on an Affordable Care Act health insurance policy. So my premium is going to be $1,500 a month, right? That's good. I can get it. No pre-existing conditions. Even though I've had this terrible accident, I can get the policy. Well, if you would have come to Nate and Greg, we could have invested that in such a way that your ordinary income tax liability was very low, and the policy price might be $35 instead of $1,500 a month. Because the government will subsidize as long as your income is below certain levels. So knowing how to create the investment outcomes that I want, but do that on a basis that works with other coordinating tax issues can be a big deal. Because $1,500 a month is $18,000 a year versus $35 a month for the exact same policy. Right?
Yeah.
So just a matter of how I took that settlement, whether it was, as Nate said, a 401k or whatever, or what I did with it once I got it.
Yeah. I mean, really, guys, what a great kind of holistic approach, because you're right. It's never, and we have a saying around here with clients, you can lead a horse to water, and for anyone, when you give them $50,000, $60,000, that's a lot of money, especially if they've never had anything before. And so it's not as simple as just handing them a check, because so much more can be done with that, right? When you understand the numbers, right? Like you do. So, and Nate, you have years of experience, right? Litigating family law cases. Yeah.
I was a family law attorney to some degree for about 20 years.
Yeah.
Whether it's doing child support or multi-million-dollar marital estates, the understanding of money. That's how I met Gregg. Is like I realized I might be better at this than some.
Yeah.
But I wasn't good enough for what my clients needed. Right. And so I started following Gregg around and learning, okay, this is what this does. This is what this means. And without admitting I committed malpractice, I might have done something different in the past than I'd done had I known more about the situation. So my hope is all my friends in the family law community, I can help out by saying, all right, bring this client to me.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at this. All right. I'm pretty accessible. Find me, say, hey, let's talk about this pension. Is this a good pension valuation? I can do a pension valuation, but it's a lot easier to take the work that somebody else has done and say, all right, this is what they've done right or they've done wrong. And a lot of family law attorneys don't know that. I was on the phone yesterday with a guy who said, what do you think of this pension valuation? And I looked, and the first problem I saw is that it was a pension for a man, and they listed him as a woman. Well, the problem, women live longer. Yeah. So the pension's going to be worth more than it would be for the man. Just simple stuff. He's like, I didn't even catch that.
Wow. Yeah, this all came together. Nate and I worked together on several cases, and Nate has he's a math major, so his understanding of some of these financial issues was far greater than most family law or other attorneys that we work with, because that's not their business, right? And so that's kind of how this came together. Is we realized, gosh, if we can work with folks that are really good at giving legal advice and don't have a lot of training in financial advice, and we can bring together something where we can give great financial advice from the perspective of we understand the legal ramifications. So the lawyers don't have to train us every time about why we can't do something, that I might have a great mathematical idea. It's just not legally going to work. We already have a sense of that, right? Nate's been doing this for 20 years. So we can bring really good, workable, doable solutions to the table that make these outcomes better than they would have been otherwise.
Yeah. On your bio online, Gregg, it says you should really talk to Gregg about what the difference is between $100,000 settlement and $1 million settlement. Hint, it's not $900,000.
Yeah, and it goes back to, that example I used a minute ago about health insurance, right?
Yeah.
The other thing a lot of people in America experience at some point between their 62nd and 7th birthday is this thing called Social Security. And that is either tax-free or 85% of it is part of your taxable income that you have to pay tax on, depending on the factors that we've described. How much other income do you have and where does it come from, right? So how much tax do I have to pay from this pile of money before I get to spend it is a super important question. So yes, sometimes a smaller settlement that is in assets that are more tailored to my other situation, the rest of my situation, sometimes less money can actually produce more income than more money. So not something that's in the scope of our conversation today, but what other income do I have? What other assets do I have? What income comes to me and I can't stop it? What income can I manipulate on a year-to-year basis? All of that can have just a huge effect. So that's why we say it's not about the number. You can feel good about the number, especially if you're keeping score.
Right.
And using money to do that, which is a bad idea. But it's really about what is this going to do for me tomorrow and a year from now and 10 years from now and 40 years from now, and how do I align it so that it's very likely to get me what I want? Right?
Yeah. You guys paint that picture.
You have to, and we do the math, right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm wrong all the time, right? So we're not trying to predict the future. We're looking at outcomes, potential outcomes, math, probabilities, and making sure that we're moving along a path that makes sense, and we adjust as the situation changes.
Yeah. Nate, that's a good point. We had lunch and we were talking about kind of like a run-of-the-mill soft tissue injury, personal injury case, maybe $20,000, $30,000 settlement. Client gets not multi-million-dollar cases. And I've had a lot of situations with, let's say, more traditional financial firms that they're just like, we won't even touch it if it's not worth X, $100,000, several $100,000. But that's not really Torchlight's approach, is it?
No. we want to talk to everybody. There's a bit of this, well, yes, it's our business. We want to make money at it.
Yeah.
But there are so many people in our community that when they find themselves with a check for $30,000 or $40,000, that's a full year income that they got, maybe even more, in a matter of a few months of working with an attorney and getting a settlement that supports it. How they spend that money can actually make a huge difference in the rest of their lives. So if they need help deciding, okay, do I pay off the 26% interest credit card? Do I pay off the 8% interest car? Do I run out and buy a brand new whatever you can buy for $40,000 these days? I'm not sure what's left. But whatever it is, what's the smart thing to do with the money?
Right.
And that's where we can sit down and we can help with that. It's not going to be nearly as in-depth as the individual who may have to have their house remodeled or have life care.
Right.
But certainly answering some questions about what this person needs to look at first, second, third. If the insurance companies have been paid back, if the hospitals have been paid back, and they still have money left over, what's wise to do with that? And there are things that Gregg has available that don't involve as much financial planning work, or just where to put that money. Mm-hmm. It's a simple question to answer, and it doesn't involve necessarily the relationship as a CFP.
Okay, like a more traditional type relationship.
Yeah. So, and this is hard for people sometimes, but we really want to help everybody that we can using the knowledge and gifts that we have. Mm-hmm. So, someone comes in with $60,000 or $100,000 isn't necessarily going to become a long-term financial planning client of ours, right?
Right.
But we can help give them some good foundational and fundamental advice and hook them up with the resources they need to sustain that, right? Mm-hmm. So, no, not everybody that comes through our door ends up being a long-term client, but that's okay. We're trying to help people with what they have, build on that, right?
Right.
And sometimes that includes us. Sometimes that includes other resources, but that's what we're here to do.
Yeah. So, Nate, I want to talk to you a little bit about, I was reading your bio and it said, to be blunt, we can't really articulate the full extent of what Nate does here. But he's always pretty busy doing, and by the way, guys, you really did a fantastic job on your bios.
Oh, thanks.
I thought that was really cool. Just
part of what I do is I write people's bios.
Oh, okay. So not just a math guy, but also a writer.
Well, literature.
You mentioned and it also says you're a certified domestic relations mediator.
Right.
So, I dabbled a little bit in family law, not much, but, if I had a case and the judge was like, you got to go mediate this case, I would go to someone, let's say.
Judge usually appoints a panel and you strike.
Yeah, and you pick from there. With what the service that you're providing at Torchlight, is it similar? Would you be on that panel? And
yes. Yeah. I'm listed on panels pretty regularly by the judges. I mediated yesterday morning. I was listed on a panel. It was just a regular old family law dispute. Mm-hmm. We weren't able to get an agreement, but we went through the process, and now those parties can proceed to the hearing.
Okay. And then, but Torchlight brings this added aspect of
it's really helpful. Yeah, it's really helpful sometimes because when almost every family law case has to go to mediation before the judge is going to take a final hearing on it, right? Because the judge understands in an hour or two or a half a day or whatever you have to tell your whole life story, the judge is going to get a very small fraction of that and then make a decision that is binding. And that is a really, really tough way to go. So people have the opportunity to work it out themselves in these divorces, and that's generally better. So Nate takes the cases and starts to work with the folks around what they agree on and what their conflict is. And by having the rest of the firm with certified financial planners, certified divorce financial analysts, chartered retirement plan counselors, folks who understand money, when that case comes in, we can take a look at a depth that most mediators can't, right? Yeah. And so again, it's about confidence. It's about getting answers to the right questions.
Yeah.
And so when they bring a case to Nate, both attorneys and their clients can be very confident that they're going to get good information, that they're going to get the same information, and that it's going to be correct.
Yeah.
So that we can come up with, again, how do you get a mediation solved? Both parties walk away unhappy, knowing they got as good a deal as they could, and that deal is going to work for them.
Right.
Yeah.
That deal's going to work for them. You can't sign an agreement with confidence if you don't know if it's going to work for you. No. You've got to be able to do the math and understand what you're looking at to accomplish that. So Nate does just a fantastic job of helping resolve a lot of cases just because we can bring that extra.
Yeah.
The idea that people sit down, and this goes back to that 8-hour pressure cooker of mediation.
Right.
The mediator turns the heat up in the room, and it's 85 degrees in the conference room where you're mediating, and I'll sign anything to get a drink of water, and there's no water.
Or today it's 45.
Yeah,
right.
Or we turn it down. I'll sign anything if you give me a blanket.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. No, that
He does not do that, to be clear.
No. Disclaimer. I was mediating the other day, and they had shown up without the pension valuation being done.
Okay.
And so, it's like, we pause the mediation. We go and we get the pension valuation done. We come back.
You guys, how long did that take for you guys to do that?
If they have the right information, it's relatively quick. That can be done in a half an hour or so.
Right.
So you're knocking on Gregg's door.
Right.
Saying, hey, Gregg.
Right. Well, we have a big team. There's 29 or 30 of us.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. That mediation anywhere else would have ended. And now you call the guy, and 3 weeks later they give you the thing, right? Yeah. Oh, he was able to walk across the hall and say, "Hey, here are the facts. I need it. Okay, wonderful. Well, we need this."
Yeah. Each party gets a pension valuation.
Yeah.
This is where we value the pension. If you don't like our number, you can go hire somebody else to see if the number's going to be that much different.
But you guys are neutral.
Right.
No.
Correct.
You're not really representing the number is what it is.
In that case, correct. Sometimes we do represent one party or the other, but in these mediations, we do not. It is what it is. It is math.
Yeah. Nate, we talked about you being a litigator. I'm a litigator. I'm a trial lawyer. I love trying cases. We were at the public defender agency together.
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah. When I was in law school, I said, I'll never be a criminal defense attorney and I'll never be a trial lawyer.
Right.
And sure enough, my first job was at a public defender agency.
Yeah.
So, and then you went into litigating family law cases. We have some listeners that are lawyers because I'm a lawyer and there's a lot of lawyers on the show. But what piece of advice would you give to someone transitioning from a more traditional style of legal practice to a non-traditional, kind of like what your Torchlight?
That's a good question. What initially jumps to mind in response is that you need to have some level of comfort with where you're going.
Okay.
Right. I would say, like for you, great personal injury practice, very successful. You probably shouldn't go into being the Bob Ross paint instructor. All right.
No.
Maybe if you want to go into to talking to people or teaching classes on, all right, this is how you litigate. Excellent choice. Don't do the 180 unless you're prepared to do a 180. I couldn't have gone off and gone back into the classroom as a high school teacher after leaving this. Right. Find a volunteer opportunity. Give it a test run.
Yeah.
Lord knows we need more volunteers at just about every turn. So somebody will hire a lawyer to work for free. I'm sure of it.
Right.
Make sure you're comfortable with what you're doing. And it took me, I don't know what, years to get comfortable with understanding enough of this where I felt like, okay, I can go to another lawyer and I can say this because I'm comfortable that I know it well enough to say it. So. You're not thinking of, that wasn't a personal question, was it?
No.
Okay,
no.
All right.
I heard he's going to start building roller coasters.
I already have a roller coaster. It's called Hearst Lamontez. You've mediated cases. I think of the scene in Wedding Crashers.
Oh, yeah.
Where they're just going back and forth, right? Which is hilarious. What is anything that sticks in your mind like a crazy mediation story like that?
Oh, well, yeah.
That you can disclose,
I think I could disclose this. I'll disclose it vaguely. I was mediating about 10, 12 years ago. I was actually the attorney, and a good friend of Gregg and I was the mediator. And my client had gone out to his car to get lunch. It was one of those 8-hour, let's get this $1 million marital estate done like that today, 2 kids, whatever. It was not a happy marriage, and that was evidenced by the fact that as my client was coming back from getting his lunch out of his car, his wife jumped on his back and started punching him in the middle of the office. That mediation ended about right then. Much to the credit of her subsequent counsel, we were able to settle it outside of mediation.
Okay,
but you get all sorts of both as a mediator and as the attorney surprises. That may have been the biggest single surprise I ever had in mediation. I don't want that one again. Sometimes you're surprised because there's work that's been done or hasn't been done at mediation.
Yeah.
One of the hard things is I've been divorced, and my ex-wife's a wonderful human. We were able to create something really good out of it. But it's hard because it's, for most people, one of the worst things they're going to go through. And none of us are our best selves emotionally when we're going through that. It's really hard. And anger and injustice and all kinds of really powerful emotions can overtake us. And so one of our goals through that process is, I told you earlier about, the couple where one was going to be financially disadvantaged and had to start a new life and had to start working again and all these things. Working with someone over the course of months to go from, the injustice of that reality down to, I can do this and I'm free of a bad relationship and I can re-engage with my children. I have a chance at happiness again and I've got enough money that I can do this. Just changing that perspective and helping them see the healthy mindset of what's about to happen to them. When we can do that, we change lives. We change generationally. That family will not have weird Thanksgivings and weird first birthday parties of the grandkids because of the work we did that year, that day, that time. Again, it's just work worth doing.
Yeah. Gregg, you are award-winning, according to the website. Did you know your partner was an award-winning partner?
Yeah, well, yes.
So, lots of awards.
The Ameriprise Diamond Ring recipient. What is that? Did they actually give you a diamond ring?
They actually did.
I always thought it was like the Ring of Honor around the Cowboy Stadium or something like that.
I started my career with Ameriprise 27 or 28 years ago, 1996 or 97. And I've stayed with them. They're good folks. Now we own the practice. The Clearwater Private Wealth is the wealth management side, and we own Torchlight. But we clear our trades and compliance and those kinds of things through a company called Ameriprise. They're the largest financial planning company in the U.S. And so if you're one of their top advisors for, I think it's 17 years, something like that, or 20, I don't know, then you get on there. Diamond.
Oh, okay.
Diamond. I think you have to be in the top 5 or 10% of. We are very happy though. We just found out for 2024 we're on the Forbes Best-in-State list.
Fantastic! Congratulations, guys!
Financial advisory firm. We're very excited.
Yeah, I mean, you guys.
Forbes is a big deal.
They are.
Yeah,
a very big deal. Yeah. So I should try to see if they'd be willing to sponsor this show.
They should.
Instead of just me. So on the website, you guys call it the fun stuff, the dash of personal stuff. All right. We talked about, you guys know I have 4 kids. You guys have 4 between the 2 of you, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Mine are a little older than yours, so I'm in a different phase. The one you're in, the chaos phase, is beautiful, but man, it's a lot.
Oh, I'm tired all the time. Yeah. I feel like there is a baby constantly screaming in my ear. I mean, I hear her right now. So, Gregg, you like really awesome things, a lot of the same things that I like: boating, fishing, traveling. Cool. What's a really cool place you've been to, you've traveled to?
I'd say one of the coolest things was we went to Belize and we saw the ATM cave. So it's this cave. You got to swim down this river, and then you go underwater and you come up inside this cave. And it was for, I believe it was the culturally inaccurate here. I believe it was the Mayans. It was a sacred site. So they had little temples in there, and just this thing is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And then you jump up and cross the border, and Tikal is this humongous city, Mayan city that is just beautifully excavated and allows you to see really how that culture worked and what the city looked like, and some of the really interesting technology they use. So that's one of the coolest places like it.
Yeah. Did you take notes, Emmanuel? Because he has family back in Mexico, so
Well,
and
he's
that's right next to it.
Well, it's a little south there, but I think he's recording this, so he can probably go back.
Yeah, he might listen back later.
So what about what do you fish for? You fisherman, freshwater, saltwater?
So my dad loves to fish in Canada. So we drive up all the way through Minnesota to the border there, and then take a little bush plane up about 300 miles in the middle of Ontario, the province, on lakes you can only get to by seaplane.
Wow.
He loves to fish for walleye out there. And there's some beautiful, humongous northern trout, which I think are the most fun, but they're difficult to eat because of the way their bone structures. And he just doesn't care about that. All he wants to do is catch walleye. So so we do that, and just getting to spend a week in a little 15-foot boat with your dad. I mean, there's nothing better.
Can't beat that. Have you ever been ice fishing?
Yes, I have. No, thank you.
No, I've I'm native Floridian and never saw snow until my freshman year at Hanover. And I grew up fishing, love fishing. I like to say that if it swims, crawls, or floats in the ocean, I'll eat it.
Be careful with that one.
Right. But I've never been ice fishing, and it's kind of intriguing. You're sitting in a hut, you're freezing your ass off.
But you got some good bourbon and a couple good stories.
There you go.
Be all right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know what's worse, that or trying to fish, some side canal in South Florida in August, getting attacked by mosquitoes. Yeah.
Well, see, we grew up on a small lake out there just outside of Warsaw, and so we didn't have any fancy hut or anything. We just sat in, blistering winds and on an upside down bucket, and that's how I ice fished, right? So that's why I say no thanks. But for those guys that have, their Taj Mahal ice sheds and it's,
they
65
actually have heaters in those.
Yeah. That would probably be something.
Right. And you're also avid reader. What are you reading on now?
I've just been studying all kinds of philosophy for 20 years or so.
Yeah.
And I think most recently, kind of Michael Singer, some of his ideas. I think he's one of our greater living philosophers. Just some great stuff there. He wrote a book called The Untethered Soul many years ago, and a couple of follow-ons since then. And I would just invite anybody who's trying to really connect to their meaning in the world, what they're doing with it. Just a great place to start some reflection.
Yeah. That's really that's one thing I've noticed especially with younger generation. That's a big thing with that. Why whereas my generation is just you go to work, you wake up, you go to work, you get a job.
Get good grades, go to a good school.
Yeah.
Find a woman, get a fence, build some kids, go back to work.
Yeah. And well, so far I've been checking all those boxes.
Right. So. And if you don't like it, get over it.
Right.
Rub some dirt on it, go back to work.
That's funny. There's got to be a lot of psychology involved with what you guys are doing. Do you have a psychologist on staff or a therapist, someone that has that kind of?
We do not have one on staff. I think that's actually a next step in our evolution. Is there are divorce coaches, there's life coaches, and then therapists. Yes, a tremendous amount of what we do is helping folks adjust to that new perspective I was just talking. Life is changing, and it can change for the better or worse. And I guarantee it's going to do one of those directions. And you get to choose which direction it goes.
Right.
And most of that is through the perspective that we choose. Right. Yeah. Because if we choose to let something be beautiful, I promise you it will be.
Yeah.
If we choose to be needy, if we choose to be selfish, if we choose to see whatever we have as not the right thing or not enough, then that's what it will be. And that's entirely unnecessary. By finding a way to see the beauty and be grateful, our lives dramatically.
Yeah.
And that's not a simple thing to do, but it is unachievable.
Absolutely. So, Nate, let's talk about some of your fun stuff here. The one I did not know this about you. You are in the process of restoring a '69 Mustang. Yeah.
Yeah.
How far along in the process?
I have it apart. It has been apart for far too long. I have a very gifted former client who's become a friend, who's built cars and taken them to SEMA and done some of that. So he and I are working together on the plans. I have it apart, and we're trying to figure out what it's going to look like as it goes back together.
Right.
We want it to still look 1969-ish, but it's something that I want to drive. It's not something that I want to put in my garage and park. So the seats need to be more comfortable than 1969.
Yeah.
We might opt for seat belts.
That's a good idea. As a personal injury lawyer, I would recommend that.
I just want to buy him the damn car all the way put together so he'll come back to work.
That's funny.
So there's some new technology that we'd like to have inside of it, like the crank on the window, still the universal symbol for roll your window down, but I don't want to crank my windows down.
That's what my first car was a 1980 Plymouth Volare with, I paid $500 for it. Yeah. No AC in Florida. So, but it came with a compressor, and my stepdad and I took it apart and we put that new compressor in there, and the AC worked fine.
Yeah. It's fun doing that sort of like mechanical stuff from time to time.
Yeah. I used to do a lot more. I used to do so much more stuff when I was a kid. Now that when you're a lawyer, you, and especially if you have like a business coach or someone who tells you that there's only so much you can do with your time. You have 4 kids. So, you have 2 kids, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And a very lovely wife.
Yeah.
Yes.
Comes from a good family.
Right. Yeah. Yes. As a judge friend of mine would say, the good stock.
Yeah.
They're good stock. Soccer guy too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you play in high school?
I played in high school. Purdue did not have a full NCAA team.
Okay.
We had a club. We're a very good club team. We went to the national championships, and I played for them. And by played, I mean I sat the bench a lot for them. I was a goalkeeper, and for those of you listening who don't know a thing about soccer, you play your best goalkeeper, and unless they die on the field, the second and third best goalkeepers get the coach the water. I mean, I was basically juice box, if you've seen Kicking and Screaming. Mm-hmm. But I had a blast. Loved playing. A lot of my friends still play. My wife told me I wasn't allowed anymore. Tore some things that didn't get repaired, and so I'm done there.
You get older,
We think of him more of as the water boy than the juice box guy. Go Bobby Boucher.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But no, my kids love it. They're very good. They both play at Hoosier FC. Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
And have both been selected to represent Indiana in the ODP teams.
Congratulations.
We're excited. So we'll be spending a weekend in Memphis, which we're not that excited about Memphis.
Right.
Good barbecue. It's into February, so I'm not sure it's going to be warm enough to enjoy it. So.
Warmer than here. I mean, it's like negative something out there.
Hell's warmer than here. Even the part that's frozen over is still warmer than here.
Right. And you do some reffing too, some refereeing?
Yeah. Just my daughter wanted to get into it, so something that she and I could do together. Unfortunately, we've not had any games together because they only hire one ref at a time for the small-sided games.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all right. So
I feel like
a few games here and there.
I feel like every parent should do some form of reffing having
Oh, yeah.
having watched, my kids are CYO, having watched some basketball games, football games.
Did you get thrown out?
I haven't gotten thrown out, but I've seen coaches get thrown out, by refs. It's
For arguing with the refs?
and for just saying what kind of call was that, and then the refs like, get the hell out of here. So I used to be mouthy. Not surprising. Yeah. So when I played sports, I was a little mouthy with refs. So I feel like I just got it all out of me. So guys, I appreciate you coming. Thank you so much. What is next for Torchlight?
We're just going to keep going. We're going to continue to build these relationships so that as people go through these rough times, there's a place to go where they know they're going to get the combined financial and legal help that they need, teaming up with attorneys like you and all of the great folks and judges that we work with throughout Central Indiana and the country. We've built something, I think, pretty beautiful that's having some amazing effects, and we're just going to keep building it as long as the good Lord tells us to keep building it. Yeah.
And you guys are doing some really great work with local bar associations, statewide bar associations. Yeah. You guys are sponsoring the trial lawyers, the young lawyers division.
Yeah. We're really happy about that. Chase, who you'd mentioned earlier, has been great working with them on that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we sponsor everything.
We try. We do our best.
I know how you feel.
You beat me to the talent show for Indie Bar.
No, you're never going to get that talent show from me. I
was supposed to help Adam Christensen, and I were going to MC it, but I'm out of town. I leave that day.
Oh, bummer.
To go out of town. Yeah, so we were really looking forward to working with you.
Oh, bummer. So you guys had. You guys did the CLE where it was like a trip, like a Jeopardy thing with the judges.
Judges and Jeopardy.
Yeah. So you did that, but the first hour was like a cocktail kind of thing. Yeah. I had to leave to go to my son's game, so I missed it. But I saw you, Greg, and Adam with your glitter jackets on and shiny coats.
That's right. We got a class to place up now.
Yeah.
That's right.
That was.
It's going to be like WrestleMania, I think. We've got the championship belt now. It'll be a traveling trophy between the judges. And one of the judges here has asked us to set it up for sometime in July. So round 2.
That's awesome.
It's coming back. July.
Yes, but to be clear, there will be no one actually wrestling. He's talking about the.
Well, we're using Roman numerals at the end, so it'll be Judges in Jeopardy 2, like WrestleMania 2.
But nothing like WrestleMania in that no one will be wrestling.
No.
There won't be any spandex either.
No, I don't know about that.
I was going to say, I thought so.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. If Greg and Adam are going to wear spandex at the next MC, then
there's a small chance. Yeah, this is not good. Let's strike that from the record.
That's funny.
Because I'll end up in spandex because I know Adam.
Right.
And if he does it, he's going to peer pressure me into doing it, and he looks a lot better in spandex than I do. I can guarantee that.
Right. Yeah, that guy doesn't age.
No,
he doesn't.
It's sick.
Yeah.
It's like 85.
Right.
Yeah.
That talent show, the only reason I do it, and I tell everyone this, is just because I went out in Broad Ripple so much when I was younger that an opportunity to have my name up on the marquee at the Vogue, I just can't pass that up.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, that's an awesome thing you're doing there.
It's a great show.
I know. I'm so bummed that I screwed up my calendar, and
well, hopefully you'll be somewhere.
Yeah, the wife wanted to go on a little cruise, the two of us for the Valentine's Day thing.
Nice.
And how do you say no to that?
Well, right? No, you don't.
And then that was booked a while ago, and then I saw your thing, so I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm flying down to Miami with all 6 kids on Valentine's Day.
Oh.
So don't fly on that flight.
Wow.
So, guys, if any of our listeners want to get a hold of you, how can they get your information? How can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, it's torchlightresolutions.com. The contact information is right there. You can even book a meeting with me.
That's cool.
Just go on click, request a meeting, fill out a little bit of information so I know what I'm talking about, and I'll give you a call when you pick the time to call.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is that easy. If you're an attorney, you've got some questions, in Hacker, N-H-A-C-K-E-R, at torchlightresolutions.com. I'm very accessible. I'll get back to you with answers as soon as I can. And if I don't have one off the top of my head, I know a guy. I'll be able to get you an answer.
Nate,
real quick.
We've done everything we can to make that super easy. So you can set a time to talk. You can upload files. You all secure, so that we can look at your case and give you some ideas of where we think it could go and if we should be involved.
Yep. You can even find us on the Facebook.
On the Facebook.
Yep. We don't have the Instagram yet, but we have the Facebook, and
We're not on the TikTok.
we'll have the Twitter X probably next. But
Yeah. We have it all, and Emmanuel manages all of it because I couldn't do it. So
He's the man. Then.
he is the man.
Emmanuel,
you looking for a job?
Okay, we're getting invited back.
Oh my God!
Just pack this studio up. It's pretty sweet. We'll make space.
That's funny.
Well, thank you so much for having us. It was
thank you. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was really truly a pleasure having both you guys in here. I was a little worried about having two, but I think it was a blast. So
I talked all over Nate, so
that's fine.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I know where Batman sits and where Robin sits. That's fine.
That's not true.
So thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone, for listening to Circle City Conversations podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on more future conversations.